Are you planning to settle in the capital of west coast of Karnataka? If so, here is a ready-to-build property adjacent to Mangaluru city amidst lush green, which indeed is the right place to have a happy home. Just 20 minutes at a distance of 10 kilometers from the heart of the city, located at Neer Marga, is one of the most prominent developing area of Mangaluru city limits. A peace and serene place surely be loved by your dear ones. Surrounded by natural trees and valleys, the 13 cents plot of solid terrain is the destination for construction of your everlasting dream home. Various educational institutions, hospitals, malls, historical and religious places at close vicinity will be additional booster for your comfortable and holistic lifestyle. The ready-to-sale plot, located near Manipal University's proposed campus, will assure you good ROI if you are thinking in terms of investment. Contact +9181 971 43675 or 8217 729859.
Hello everyone, welcome to yet another episode of Walk the Special Path. Today we have another expert in the field of special education, Dr. Kusum Tantry. Welcome ma'am to our show. Dr. Kusum Tantry is currently freelancing as Counsellor, Translator and Teacher Trainer and Research Guide. She is a Senior Consultant at Ikigai Ken, Hyderabad and Resource Person for Oxford University Press. She has a career spanning over 30 years in the education sector. Dr. Kusum began her career as an English language teacher in undergraduate degree colleges for nearly 13 years. She was awarded a research fellowship by Mahe University in 1998 for an interdisciplinary doctoral research project. She served as a regional academic head, Karnataka and Kerala from 2009. She has independently set up 3 greenfield schools and revived a 50-year-old school to its former glory. Post this, she worked as a consultant to Gurukula School, Kundapur and BEM School, Mangalore. Later, she founded the Cambridge International School in Mangalore till 2018 and moved to Vibgyor Roots and Rise Kulur School till 2020. In her tenure as school head and principal, she strived for inclusive education by sensitizing teachers, parents and stakeholders towards catering to the needs of children with different abilities. Thank you, Dr. Kusum for being here with us on this show.
Thank you.
So, Doctor, I would like to ask you, how inclusive is today's education system? You have been in this field for so many years, and that's very impressive, Doctor. You think how much inclusive is today's education system?
This question is so vast. I don't know from where I should begin, but let me start with my own experience as a child, where I was also, I also had learning issues. As a child. So from there my journey to what you just read out my CV, it's been a very a strenuous path, especially academically for me. Now and all this has happened, I should say, it's very sad to say as an educator, all this has happened despite school and despite teachers and despite everything that we call in the system of education. So if someone has to flower or bloom in their lives, most of the time the education system may not be responsible for it. So this is broadly I can tell you. And if we get into inclusivity of education, the curriculum itself is not inclusive. So we don't cater to children with different abilities. We have one fit for all curriculum. So therefore what happens is, even in a normal classroom, let's say we have ratio of children where maybe 2-3% of children are exceptionally good, and then you have the large 60 to 70% of children whom it's not me categorizing, it's a general category that happens, is the average children. And then you have children who are considered lower than the average students, and they are again abysmally, a little 2 to 3% of them. Now in this below average students, unfortunately the differently abled children are not seen. So they are not there basically.
Very sad.
Yeah, they are not there, so this is how inclusive the education system is. This I'm talking about the spread out of the demography in the classroom. Now what happens is, let's talk about the curriculum. Now in the curriculum, forget about the differently abled children. The curriculum that the teachers are asked to execute in the classroom, it does not cater to even these demography I just spoke to you about. Now what happens is, the syllabus or the curriculum that is set is largely, it benefits or it is driven to the average children, not even the exceptionally good children. Now what happens with the exceptionally good children? They are not engaged because they grasp within few seconds, and the rest of the time they trouble. That's what the teacher said. This boy is very good, but he doesn't allow me to teach. No, this is the complaint that we get. Now another thing I want to dimension that I want to bring in, this boy or a girl who is very good but can't sit in the class, many of us don't know, they also come under the special category, because the child will have high IQ, but behaviorally he needs intervention. Engagement is not there. You have many children who are come under autism spectrum with high IQ. Many of us don't know this. So we label them. We say that he's a troublesome, he's lazy, he has temperament, he has mood issues. These are all which comes under the autism spectrum, if you notice that. Now they just go unnoticed. Now they are very good academically, but they have so many other areas that need to be intervened and corrected. The acceptable behavior has to be brought in. Now, what about the children who are below average? Now, this syllabus or curriculum does not fit for them as well. So now, how inclusive is our education system? You tell me. It's not at all inclusive.
Right. It's a very, very sad thing we have. So, ma'am, as we are in Mangalore now, you say, how inclusive are the schools and centers in Mangalore or in Karnataka as such? And what are the challenges that educational institutions face due to policy paralysis regarding special needs children?
Now, this I need to tell you, we have this what is called that the Right of Persons with Disability Act, which came in 1995. Okay,
I think many of them are not aware of this act.
Yes, this bill was passed in 1995, and here only 8 types of disabilities was recognized according to the bill.
Okay.
And there was an amendment in 2016. So in 2016 what happened was, they added 21 types of disabilities, plus the dimension became different. What happened was, the bill passed here also told that educated people that it has to have it had a baggage or it had an attachment of human rights. So that is why now people with disabilities or the caretakers of disabilities now can fight for their rights. Otherwise it was not even covered in the umbrella of the right. It's not even your right to ask for basic amenities for these kind of children. Now when I say disabilities with children, now people normally understand what is seen. So what is seen is people with physical disability, that people understand it very clearly.
Yes, right.
Okay, a person with physical disability. But what about the other areas where there something to do with the mind? Now that's not seen as obviously as the physical disabilities, right? So now what happens there? Now recognizing or giving them the right accessibility to different, amenities. One of the amenities is education. Rest is the infrastructure. So we don't have. If you see it in Mangalore itself, you forget about people with disability. People who have all right from top to bottom itself can't walk on the road, properly. And how can you expect, these children to be free and walk anywhere? It's a very sad state of affairs. And anywhere you go, now coming to the school. Now CBSE board says that every school should have a ramp. So we can make a social audit. We can go to every school and see, is it there, first of all? CBSE schools, forget about other schools. Does CBSE school has a simple thing called a ramp? It's not there. Second thing, for the children with different abilities, the school should have a separate washroom which is accessible to this child with the wheelchaired children. Not there. They just have a common washroom where a physically disabled child cannot go. It's not possible for him to go. It's a Herculean task, the ayah has to, it's a big task even for that. And this is how inclusive the school facilities are. When you don't have a system in place, even the physical things like, classroom, whatever I mentioned now, washroom or a ramp, a simple thing as a ramp is not available in the classrooms, schools.
It's really difficult, I think, and it's more difficult when they have an invisible disability, you mean?
Now that's a different genre altogether, because that is what is more challenging, because now what has happened is what we call, we have this term called differential learning. Now in differential learning, what happens is every, like an engineering student, civil engineering student may also learn about how to build a structure which is accessible to all. He'll definitely theoretically learn how it is. Whether it is implemented or not is a different thing. Now there what happens, like you mentioned a little while ago, you have the science. The education is given through the science. Now what is education? Everybody should understand the concept. So now when you see the signboard of a wheelchaired cartoon in a washroom, outside the washroom, so you know that that is meant for a person who is physically disabled. This even a person who has not gone to school will understand, because it's pictorially represented.
Yes.
Right? So everybody knows. So that's how we impart education to all, to sensitize people. Little while ago you asked me about inclusive education. Even this kind of sensitization of education inside the classroom is not there. It's not happening.
Sad fact. True, ma'am. Ma'am, what would you give the parents who are not able to accept that the child is differently abled? I think it's very common, when a child is diagnosed as special needs, a parent find it very difficult. They go into denial mode. They are not ready to accept. So what advice would you give such parents?
See, the most difficult area is to convince a parent that the child belongs to a particular spectrum. It could be MR, that is mentally retardation, mild to severe. It could be autism, spectrum. Down syndrome is more obvious because physically people can make out the child has Down syndrome. So maybe there the parent will accept, more than these areas where the child looks physically all right, but then there are other issues. So basically what happens is, there are parents in my the people whom I know, whom I have counselled, they are in a lifelong denial. It's very difficult to convince them. It's not possible to convince them. If I have to give an anecdote, there was this child, early childhood, he just entered, 4-year-old child. The classic differentiation that we can make from these children is, they don't, it takes very long time for these children to normalize in a classroom, especially behavioral aspects. As I told you a little while ago, some children are, IQ is very high. They grasp whatever is happening in the classroom, they repeat. But behavioral aspect is a big challenge. Now what happens there, like for example, the teacher is teaching and the child is just running round and round like a tornado, which disturbs the other children. The other children are not able to understand because this child is disturbing. But if you ask that child any concept that was taught that day, he is able to answer. So this is a child with high IQ but belongs to the spectrum.
Okay.
Belongs to the spectrum. Now, there was the same example, a 4-year-old child who came, and in this case, the IQ was also not adequate. The child was not able to cope with schooling at all. He was not able to cope with the schooling system. We called the parents, and it happened to be that both the parents are, in the medical profession. And for me, in my tenure as a school leader, it is very hard. It was very, very hard for me to convince who are very, very educated, and that too in the medical profession. I'm very sad to say, please don't mistake me. It's my personal experience that I'm sharing. Now, in this case, both of them are in the medical profession. It took for us 6 months to convince the mother, at least finally the mother, consented. Okay, she agreed, she accepted that, okay, my child needs intervention. We convinced her to, she left her job. She was with this in the school, shadowing the child. Then we told her, mother, cannot shadow now. It's not, the child will not learn much. So she appointed another shadow teacher for the child. It took almost 5 years for that child to, learn something, and the more delay in acceptance, the more delay in the child to develop or learn. So parent acceptance is very important. And if I have to give you a counter example, for me, the parents who come with the lesser education background, they accept what we say very easily, because they know that we mean well to the child.
True.
And they have aspiration for the child. So therefore they are, for me it was very easy to convince them, but not people who are highly educated. They are always permanently in the denial mode.
I think, that's the case we see today. And acceptance, I think parents should know acceptance is the first key towards the betterment of your child. I think you'll agree.
Definitely. Even the parent will undergo that process, in acceptance.
Right.
So what happens is we need a right team of professionals, which is lacking in most of the districts, in schools, everywhere. We don't have a team of professionals.
Right.
We have professionals like silos in islands, misguiding each other and misguiding the parents. Therefore, there is so much of delay that is happening in the child's development.
At the premium gateway to Mangaluru, one of the premier cities of Karnataka possessing all types of domestic and international connectivity, is a full-fledged commercial complex, the Premier Corner, Nandur, now available to make your dream venture a reality. Each floor is spread across 4,200 square feet to provide a class ambience to your clientele. Adhering to all safety norms, the Premier Corner is all set to be a game changer for any business, thanks to its easy connectivity. Located right beside NH66, Premier Corner has been built in view of futuristic needs with ample space for vehicle parking in 2 basements. The G+3 story building is the right place to start premier ventures like corporate office, vehicle showroom, IT firms, exclusive retail shops, brand outlets, and to add on, a terrace cafe. Come, invest and own this premier space at Premier Corner. Contact +91 81 971 43675 or +91 7676 218101 for a premier business deal.
Doctor, what are the early signs of learning disability in a child? And how can parents, teachers, friends help in this regard to catch the child at a very early age?
Yeah, what happens in this nuclear family is you just have mother, father and the child, right? And normally what happens is there is a huge delay in the nuclear family to recognize the signs, even though there is a telltale signs that is happening. Like for example, you have the milestones of the children. At this age the child has to turn over. This age the child has to sit, stand, walk, speak.
True.
Little delay here and there is a common thing. That's okay. Now you have the grandmothers telling, okay, my first child, did everything fast. The second child was slow. The third like this. They have their own stories, no doubt. Now here what happens is, the first telltale sign is the child is not able to toilet train himself or herself.
Okay, yeah. Yes,
The child is not able to, basically child cannot be independent on his own, like cannot eat on his own, cannot anything that in that age the 4-year child should be already toilet trained, should be able to eat, at least the finger, food. Age appropriate tasks the child has to do. Another starking reality that parents have to see is the speech. They are not able to speak.
Okay.
That is a telltale sign, and I have seen in my own schools when all these signs are visible, but the child may be good in academics. This is where everybody fall into a trap. Oh, child is very good in academics, so the child is normal. You get it?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a big problem. Now here what happens is, the parent in the very early 4-year, you have to very carefully understand what is the milestone that is the child has achieved or not. So it is not a big deal to go and talk to your pediatrician. But again, I have seen, I'm sorry to say this, I'm not against any professionals, but here in my own experience as a school principal, it was many of these, see, the influencers, we call influencers. A pediatrician is a major influencer in a life of parents, especially in the little children, parents with little children. And here what happens is, I'm not sure if they are educated about special education. I'm talking about pediatrician.
Yes.
If they are not, then we are already in deep trouble, because there is a lot of misguiding that is happening. Now normally what is told, it happened in one of the cases where the pediatrician said it's all normal. Some children are, have delayed milestones, or they will pick up after 5 years, 6 years. This is how but that much of time to early intervention is the key in rehabilitation. So if you have lost 2 years in the early intervention because the doctor told you that she will be all right after 2 years, she's a late bloomer, I was like that, I was not very good in academics till primary, but in high school I improved. See, this is a very global sweeping statements. That is where the misguiding happens.
Yes, ma'am, I think you're right. Ma'am, what steps do we need to make our society an inclusive one, a disabled friendly one? I think that's very important in today's world. So how do we make our society, maybe a Mangalore, a more inclusive community?
There are so many things that needs to be addressed. All right, one is the attitude. All
True,
right,
yes,
the attitude of people. Second, that's the first major thing. If the attitude is proper, everything else will fall in place. I say we have special education and even disability, as a subject. It's a concurrent subject as per the Indian Constitution. That means the state and the central, they both have a say in this matter. So that's why there is more delay in any policy decisions. Now, and another challenge we face is each state is different. So each state can pass a different law under this concurrent subjects. So therefore there is no uniformity all over India when it comes to even education, even entry age, for example. Each state has a different entry age, which is so much more complicated. So when we have a system like this which is so complicated, number one was the attitude. Number two, this kind of complicated system that is already put to us. And number three is we don't have a teamwork when it comes to this area. I mentioned a little while ago, we don't have a team to address this issue. Now who should the team be? We need the all of whether it is legislator, executive or judiciary, they are the ones who are in the policy making area, implementing policy making, implementing, and then in the regulatory area. Now when they need to be sensitized also. we have the district administration. Now if the head of the district is moving around in the roads here and he or she can't even empathize, how can the disabled person be accessible to these roads here? If that thought doesn't come, how can you make Mangalore inclusive?
True, ma'am.
It's not possible. So that's from top to bottom we need changes. And what happens is we very easily blame the schools and we blame that poor teacher in the classroom. Now the poor teacher in the classroom has to cater to different types of learners there. She has to complete the portions. She has to see that the parents pressure on the marks of the children, because all said and done parents want good marks and she needs to complete the portion. We don't have education where it is engaging and joy to the child. It is more of a punishment to the child.
I think all these teachers themselves are not, everyone is not trained with special needs.
No teacher is trained. They have one subject in B.Ed that was introduced 10 years ago, which is called inclusive education. Now that inclusive education itself is a very broad area.
Yes.
Alright, I don't know how much of classroom techniques are taught. See, what happens in B.Ed course is more of theory than practical experience they get. See, when they come into the classroom, and then I told you a little while ago, 21 recognized disabilities. Alright.
Right.
There is more than that. Now in a classroom, if you have one Down syndrome child, which is rare actually, they go to the special school. You have a child with a Down syndrome. Then you have a physically handicapped child. You have a deaf and a dumb child. Let's say,
right,
for example, what will the teacher do in this classroom? Because the teacher is not at all equipped to handle these children.
Right. So
I told a little while ago, she's not even equipped to handle a child with the higher IQ and a lower IQ. A teacher is only prepared for the average students. The curriculum is set for the average students, yes, not for the exceptional and not for the poor. Poor at least have remedial classes. Alright, the exceptional will be disillusioned with education system before he even enters the high school. Because the child is so smart, he would have read all the textbooks before going to the next class.
right,
He is not engaged in the right way.
right.
These are the problems in education system.
I think we need to have a big change in the education system.
Yes, and see, as I was telling you, the inclusivity happens only when we have the teamwork. Who are the stakeholders here? We should have a right elected representatives who is sensitive to the needs of these people, number one. Then he can go and lobby in the assembly for a bill or for whatever it is that that is beneficial for them. Secondly, we need to have a set of school principals who are sensitized to it. If as a leader the principal is sensitized, she will sensitize the entire school.
Yes, ma'am.
How many principals are sensitized here?
Very rare, I think.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how many are, because these children are labeled and left out of the system. They are not included in the system. See, I have my own personal experience. I have seen so many children who are in the bracket who are told politely by the previous school that please take the TC. I will give nice report in the TC, but we don't want to have your child in my school. This has happened.
It's very sad to hear this.
Why? They want a good result for their school. So if a principal or the head of the institution is not inclusive, how can the whole school be inclusive? That is point number 3. Point number 4 is you and me, the commoner who are in the Mangalore city. How much are we? When we see the children of different needs, how do we react to them? Are we kind? Are we empathetic? Do we go out of our way to facilitate movement to that child?
Yes, true, ma'am. I think these changes are very important.
And buildings, like we said, not at all friendly to the disabled child. That is physically disabled child. Nowhere it is friendly. See, even to step out of the house, forget the child has to travel to the school or the mall or a cinema theatre, let us say. When he steps out of the house, Do we have a proper road for that child to travel?
I think we really need a very big change in not only the schools, education system, society, but in the attitude of people.
Yes, if my attitude of all the stakeholders are towards inclusivity, I don't think we would have sat now and complained so much about lack of inclusivity here. So, and then we say Mangalore is the most literate town in India. Now forget about where it's in the whole India. We are considered the most literate, most forward. We call ourselves most forward, which is an irony. It's a slap on our face actually. When we don't have these kind of parks. How many parks are there in the first place? How many parks are friendly to children? You forget disabled children. I'm telling only children.
Right.
Okay, how many parks are safe and secure for the children to play? Now how many of them are they cater to the special needs children?
I think special needs children, that comes at the last end. So I
no,
think
they are not existing.
So to make
For the policy makers, for the influenciers, for the people who can make decisions and change, they don't even exist.
So we need to, in order to make Mangalore inclusive community, we have lots to work towards. I think there are so many special needs schools, so many of centers. I think we all need to come together as a society along with the special need parents and start bringing about a change. I think that's the need of the
another thing is, it's also that thought has to come with the parent. Now what happens is the parents also undergo a lot of emotional turmoil because of the child. So for the parent, each day is a different day with the child of special need, because it's not the child who is suffering, it's the parents also who are suffering. Because now, for example, a physically handicapped child, just to take him for a normal checkup, it is a Herculean task. We are talking about when I said road, okay, if you are comfortable, you have a car, it's little comfortable for you. I am in a below green car, what is that? In the category where I can't afford, I am going in a public transport. How can I put my child in this kind of buses that are flying like rockets all over the city? Is the bus public transport friendly to these children?
No. As a special parent, I know it's so difficult to take a special children out. Not only in buses, it's rickshaws. Anyway, we need to have a own car. Otherwise, it's very difficult to handle such children at any time. So I think we need really to come together and change. And I think even a support group for parents is
not there.
It's not there. We are just making that sort of thing.
See, when I started in 2009 in school education, we had lot of children in each class. We used to have 2, 3 children with special needs. You won't believe that, Meena, there was not a single special educator in Mangalore town.
Oh my.
There was only one, and that she was the sister of the child with special need. She went somewhere and she did her special education and she came, and I absorbed her immediately because no other school had special education teacher appointed because they thought it's not necessary.
Yes.
This was a scenario in 2009. All right. Now, it's a very dismal ratio of special education teacher. We have this great regulatory body called Rehabilitation Center of India, RCI. Now, if you are a special educator, you have done a course, you have to register there to practice. Okay. If you don't register in RCI, it is a punishable offence. I don't know if you know this. 1,000 rupees fine and 4 months of jail if you practice without the license. Okay. Now, to get the license in RCI, it's another Herculean task. Why? Because there is only one RCI in whole of India.
Oh.
All right. Now, right now, 1 lakh special educators are registered. Okay. And they have sent for the registration. They are not registered, they are sent for registration.
Okay.
In that, only 4 or 5% have got their registration, they are registered there. Rest are still waiting. Now, I have done this, I used to convince my teachers, why don't you do a course in special education and register in RCI? It will be a added advantage for you. And my poor teachers, have done those courses. They are not able to register in RCI. You call them, they don't pick the phone. You mail them, they don't answer the mail. It's a typical government, working style. Now, if you have one in the entire country, how are they going to cater? See, there are around 9 lakh teachers. 9 lakh teachers shortage in India.
Oh, that's a big figure.
9 lakh. And in that, around, I'm giving a rough figure. Around 2 to 3% of this 9 lakh, maybe, that many have appeared for teacher eligibility test, TET. In that, only around roughly 3 to 4% have passed for the primary school. For the middle school, it is just around 6% who have passed. Why I am giving you these statistics is, out of this 9 lakh and whatever figures I am mentioning, there is not even a single special education teacher. Even one is not there.
My God, that's really
This is
sad.
a census, the figures are of 2019 I am talking about.
I think nothing much has changed since.
Not a single special education teacher. Now, what is necessary, like you said, how it can be made inclusive is that we need a RCI in every state. It has to be decentralized, number one. I'll give you another reality check. Every university should have at least special education course. In whole of India, there are, in Karnataka, there are around 65 universities. Registered 65, deemed to be deemed, whatever universities, 65. Out of 65, you will be shocked to know, there are only 3 universities offering special education as a diploma course.
Oh.
Okay? And out of this, diploma holders or whatever holders, it is not linked to RCI. It's not linked to the registration body, the regulatory body.
Okay.
See, these are all the big problems in special education field. Now, as a special group of mothers, we need to set right from here. This is the bottom of the problem.
True.
See, what is the bottom of the problem? I need more professionals. I need more special. I gave you 2009 one single special educator in whole of Bangalore. I used to send parents to Bangalore. In Bangalore, there are some NGOs running special education courses. They are linked to RCI, but they are only in Bangalore. 70 to 80% of special children, where they are? They are in the rural areas. What is the accessibility and inclusivity we talking about?
That's really difficult, I think. It's a very big task.
Attention! Here are 2 properties located just adjacent to NH73 at Melkar BC Road, which is the place most appropriate to realize the dream of having the home for a happy living. Just 30-kilometer drive from Mangaluru, the west coast capital of Karnataka, 2 layouts of 20 cents and 19 cents respectively, with village ambience, are ready to build with clear documents. The hill opposite to these properties are reserved for the proposed university campus of a prestigious Mangalore-based institution, giving you indeed the right investment opportunities in future. Pious religious centers around will give you a spiritual feel amid modern lifestyle. On-time healthcare facilities and educational opportunities are available within reach. Contact 91-81971-43675 or 821-77-29859.
So, ma'am, this NEP 2020, we are talking nowadays much about it. Has this addressed issues of children with disabilities?
Yes. For the first time in the history of India, NEP 2020 has talked about special needs children. First time.
That's great.
First time in the history of educational reforms. In 85, I think, if I am not mistaken, 85, there was a mention, but it was not there in the policy. Now 2020 NEP, it is mentioned in the policy, especially in the early intervention stage. That is when the child enters education, we have the 4-year-old child or 3-year-old child entering the school. That's where it's mentioned. That means the future is bright, but future will be bright only if the bottom is addressed, which I mentioned a little while ago. When you have no special educators, what is the use of your policy, changing or bringing it in the policy? You don't have professionals to teach. Policy has changed. Okay, you have made it in the paper inclusive. All right. It's the easiest thing to do is setting a policy. That's the easiest thing to do. The hardest thing to do is execution. Now for the execution, what do we need? We need, how many schools, how many colleges, colleges should, even getting a B.Ed degree, for a little while ago, it used to be very, very tough because there used to be only one single B.Ed college in each district. Universities don't offer B.Ed as a subject. Nowadays, in the past, many of the deemed to be universities have, are trying to introduce B.Ed as a, like in B.Ed, instead of BA, they have a B.Ed 3-year course.
Okay.
But they are far and within. Likewise, if they have special education as a degree course, BA course, BSc course, or whatever you are mentioning it there, or if you can make it more accessible to mothers who have children with disability, and allow them to come as in the evening courses. It could be a degree course or a diploma course. That mother can handle her child in a much more scientific way, and her half of her trouble will be reduced. Like, at least she has a technique of how to handle those children.
Right, I'm right. Ma'am, what is the current scenario in the field of special education in Pan India and basically in Karnataka?
Yeah, I just mentioned a while ago, it's a very dismal situation.
So we really need to bring change.
Yeah, the bottom has to change. I'm repeating again, we don't have enough colleges offering courses for increasing the professionals. They're all concentrated only in Bangalore, in Karnataka. And if I as a mother want to do a special course, I have to go to Bangalore. I can't leave everything and go to Bangalore. Everybody can't do that.
There are online courses, ma'am, whether they are helpful?
Online courses, for me to build my knowledge, it will definitely be helpful. But what about your practical classes? Mm-hmm. You need to, also gain that. You need to be a practitioner finally. So it's like, like the cliche goes, learning swimming through correspondence course. So it is better to, have at least some few contact classes. Work in a place where you have children of different abilities.
Yes, ma'am. If you would like to leave a note for News Karnataka, what would that be?
First of all, I congratulate News Karnataka to be inclusive. At least we are sitting,
Right, very right. I think yes, that's
and talking about a topic which nobody even wants to talk about. I really thank News Karnataka for allowing this series. I think, Meena, you're doing a series with different professions.
Special path.
Yes, I loved the topic also, walk the special path. Unless we walk, we will not know,
right,
what are the difficulties that is there in this path. So I really thank News Karnataka for at least initiating this whole journey, walk the path. And I request it should not be stopped here. It should not, that series will stop and it should not end there. So if there is a follow-up sessions later on in News Karnataka, follow-up could be I can give some ideas. Is News Karnataka with maybe Meena and the team, you can do audit, special education audit in the whole of Mangalore, and lobby and push the district administration to bring in some reforms. See, I'm also into environmental and zero waste and save the tree and all such things. See, even when you cut a tree, there are 100 people who go there and protest. It's not easy to do that.
Yes.
Right. So we need to lobby. Without lobbying, without a group of people for a common cause, it's not possible. And I hope News Karnataka will, initiate this, a movement. I would say it should be a special walk movement.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for your wonderful thoughts. I think all the viewers, I request if you have more, you need some opinion, some advice or any queries, please write to us at News Karnataka, and we would like to get you more experts on this topic, or we could get ma'am here to answer all your queries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.